January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Carlington School District Board of Directors is called to order. Mrs. Ring, you're not here very often. Would you mind leading us in the pledge tonight?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And let me clarify, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming. My welcome was not as warm as it should. Thank you. Can the secretary please call the roll?
Director Apple?
Here.
Director Lewis?
Here.
Director Hunter?
Here.
Director Simpson? Here. Director Pushkar? Here. Director O'Brien? Here. Director Zelensky?
Here.
Director Bibliana? Here. Director Schreiber?
Here. So there's a time at the beginning of each meeting when we invite the public to ask any questions about items on the agenda. And I do see that we have two people signing up to address the board. Are both of these on agenda items tonight?
Yes.
Okay. And
I guess my one of two, I guess, will be comment later.
okay.
One.
So Brittany, you're first on. And just a quick reminder before we begin, we invite the public to ask agenda item stuff at the beginning and at the end. We have a question for other stuff. And if you can try to keep it to 3 minutes to respect the rest of the
Yeah. First of all, I would, there's a little card at all of your spots. I want to thank you all. It's School Board Director Appreciation Month. So thank you. It's a thankless job. So I appreciate all the hard work and dedication you guys give to the district. And so thank you guys very, very much for everything that you do. It's not always appreciated by most people. They don't realize how hard the work it is, but thank you guys so much. So I just have a couple questions about some of the different policies, and I apologize because we may have talked about these at a couple board meetings ago, but I don't remember them and looking at my notes. So for policy 805.2, is this a new position that's being created, the school safety committee person, in addition to the police officer?
No, we have. Yeah.
Right, school police officer is the position that we created. And what are you
No,
referring?
because there's it says in there that the school resource, I don't think I might have
School safety and security
coordinator. Is that position already in the district?
It is, yes, it's actually required by school code.
Okay, all right, so I was a little, that. So then that clears up some of those questions. The next question is, in there I was reading, is it determined that the school police officer is going to carry a gun? Because I read in there that, about asking the state to allow the officer to carry a gun, and I wasn't aware that we were making that decision.
So that decision is not, as a part of that motion, so that decision has not yet been made.
Okay. And then in regards to policy 823 with the opioid stuff, is that going to be available in every one of the district schools?
The type,
Narcan.
the Narcan type of
Yes.
product? Yes.
Okay, so even the elementary schools will have that. Will that also be available at the football field, any of the stadiums that we use, like the soccer field? That
We do have that through EMS support, and it is also available to districts.
okay. And then for policy 900, I just have a question. So the agendas, and are they already, it said something in there that they would be available at all the municipal buildings in Roslyn Farms, Crafton, Carnegie, and then all of the schools within 24 hours before the board meeting? Is that happening, or is that?
It's part of the policy.
So that's going to be a new policy? Okay. And this is a brand new policy? This isn't?
Not brand new, it's an update from PSBA.
Okay. Thank you.
April, you have a question?
Yes, it's related to policy 805.2. I was sort of hoping that we would have some details on the school police officer position laid out in here, and I wasn't seeing much of that. There's sort of vague references to it, and wanted to get an update. The position was approved in September. Director Pushkar had asked for some immediate baseline data. The questionnaire went out in October. We're now sitting in January. Do you have an updated timeline for when that position comes? Will that be incorporated into policy? Where should we expect that?
So it's a step in the process is to get this part board approved. And the next piece that we take a look at is a comprehensive manual that oversees the safety and security of the district, which has the school police officer role into that. And that document, once we get through this process, then that document will be shared along with the discussion of use of force, types of policies. So there'll be more details prior to hiring and going through that process. Getting the policy out in front of those procedural types of things is something we need to do first before we can get into the more details.
Okay. Will that be part of this policy, or is there another one that you can direct me to? So I know to
There
keep
will
an
be, I believe, maybe 2 more policies that will go along with the school police officer position. So there'll be separate policies, but they'll reference this policy in particular.
eye. Okay. And there'll be opportunity for, will there be a first reading with that? Is there opportunity
Same
for
thing.
public
Yeah, as
review?
with all policy, anytime we propose new policy or revised policy, there's always 2 reads to it, first read and second read.
Okay.
Or
And
usually
then,
consecutive ones.
and just for clarification, the full position details will become part of a policy?
Not a part of the policy, but will be a procedural and part of the manual. It'll be public. Most of those pieces will be publicly available, but there will be some safety things that will not be publicly available just due to safety response. But the job description and those types of elements, that would be publicly available.
That would what?
That would be publicly available.
Okay.
Job description.
Okay. And so no estimated timeline?
Before the end of the school year.
Okay, so is that changing the hiring decision? Because it was referenced as early 2025.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other open forum questions for agenda items? Yes.
I just wanted the board to be aware that on the agenda, under the hiring, the Crawford principal section was listed, but all the elements were blank, and I wasn't sure if that was intentional, and if so, thought that information would be usually public knowledge before the meeting.
It is intentional, and part of the interview process is the board has the opportunity to meet with the candidate prior to the board meeting. And so it's based off of the interview process there, that whether or not the board would move forward with naming that candidate. So it reserves the spot for it so that it does accord to sunshine laws to post it as a agenda item, allows for public discussion on it, and then we'll give the details of the motion itself.
Okay, so that is being voted on today.
And we'll fill those details in prior to having a motion prior to
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what's your name, please?
Tammy Coffin.
it. Any other open forum questions? Sorry. Our solicitor reminded us that because we didn't include the specific details in the printed agenda in advance, we'll give the audience an opportunity to ask the questions about the content of this. Any other forum questions or comments? If not, we'll move on board. We have some agendas or minutes from previous agendas. I'll entertain a motion to approve the 3 minutes on the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Roll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we talked about personnel matters and legal issues. And I'll now turn to Dr. Crater for the superintendent report.
Thank you, Director Schreiber. As a part of the superintendent report, we had representatives from both Sarah, who is serving as our construction management team for the Carnegie renovation project, and we also have our architects from Draw Collective. They're going to give a presentation here in a second just to give the board and the community update on what the status is of the project. Once again, great team to work with and very dedicated towards seeing this project to conclusion. Along with Brittany, we recognize that January is School Board Appreciation Month. I would like to take the opportunity to recognize an extraordinary group of individuals, and those are members of our school board. As January being a board member appreciation, we pause to express our deepest gratitude towards the time and the level of commitment that you provide to the citizens of the Carleton community, to the students, to our teachers, to our staff, along with the sacrifices that you make in regard to attending public meetings, keeping up on literature, keeping up on school law and code, and all of that done in the spirit of being able to make good, solid financial decisions for the school district, being stewards of our taxpayer funding, and also making good, solid choices in the interest of our students. So as part of that, I do have a certificate for each one of you that I will hand out after the meeting. But again, greatly appreciated towards our board members for all the work you put in. It is greatly appreciated. And so this time I'll turn things over to Dan.
I think it's draw.
Draw is up
We'll
first.
just all be in mass.
Cassie and Jackie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for braving the cold. We're here tonight to give an update to the board of some of the most recent, ongoings between our office, Massaro, and the administrative team. First of which is regarding site planning. We had a meeting with the Carnegie Borough staff to review any updates to the site plan. We had an informal meeting with them prior to the holiday season. And this meeting a couple weeks ago was to update them on some of the comments that we've had back and forth at our administrative meetings with the district. The biggest thing that came out of that meeting was the fact that the project is now required to go for a land development application, to go through that process with the Planning Commission and the council. And for those of you that might not know that process, drawings get submitted for Planning Commission review. They're a recommending body to the Borough Council, and ultimately council is the one who approves the project to move forward. Knowing that requirement was relatively new to us, the borough was nice enough to allow us to submit for this month. Typically you need about 30 days to submit before a meeting. So we were able to submit drawings for their January meeting, which is actually next Tuesday night. So we will be presenting the updated site plan to the Planning Commission next Tuesday, and then assuming everything goes well and that maybe there are minor comments that we have to address, the Planning Commission will recommend approval by the council, and we would then present to council on February 10th for final approval. And I'll have some plans to talk through some of this, but the other noted item here is that the borough was open to conceptual upgrades to Lee Street. As we know, that area is a little nebulous. So through discussions with them, we've come up with a conceptual plan that maybe serves both the district and the borough for better use of that area. So the site plan that we reviewed with them is located on the screen here. The plan itself is pretty similar to what the district has. We're just improving upon what already exists. So just to locate everybody to the site plan, at the bottom of the page is the main entrance to the building along Franklin, and on the left-hand side here is Charles Street. This plan just highlights some of the larger scope items, one of which is, oops, sorry. We are going to be milling and resurfacing the asphalt around the building to upgrade and restripe parking, coupled with upgrading, milling and resurfacing the existing asphalt play area. Part of the
with building the addition, we are losing parking spaces up against the building, so we want to replace those, on-site for teacher and visitor parking. So I have a little box down here that talks about the number of spaces. So right now, the building has 48 spaces around the building. With the creation of the addition, we are losing 18 spaces right adjacent to the building, but with all of the work that we are doing around the building and within the existing asphalt play area, we are actually at 79 spaces. So we're almost doubling the number of spaces on site available to staff and visitors for stadium and evening events. Because we are taking over the existing asphalt play area for parking, we are actually creating an additional, recreating the asphalt play area around the existing playground now. And I just want to make the point that we are not touching the existing play area, the soft surface play area. That equipment and that size and shape is not changing. We're doing work around that area. One of the other items you'll see here is we have to accommodate stormwater, so we're handling that by some underground tanks between the buildings here, but also some rain garden adjacent the parking area here. And I've highlighted here, we'll talk a little bit more about the Lee Street upgrades. So this is just a closer view of the actual addition. Item 1 here is referencing pavement resurfacing. So as I mentioned, along Charles Street here, we're going to resurface and repave that area. By doing that, we're going to relocate and upgrade the accessible parking spaces here while creating a better turn to get into the back of the building. So that extension of the milling and resurfacing extends into the back here between the new addition and the locker rooms, and then the rest of the way to the far right-hand side where your existing gates are now. Item 2 is to highlight this kind of pixelated area here is new sidewalk around the new addition. And connecting that, ADA parking with new entrances that we're creating. Item 3 is a new outdoor learning area. We've seen some images before where we're going to provide some terraced areas, some flat concrete work that will allow the interior educational space spill out into the exterior in between the addition and the kindergarten wing. And then the other item to note on here is item 4, relocating the dumpsters. Right now the district has some dumpsters over here and some dumpsters over in the Lee Street area. So we're going to combine them and make them, enclose them in a better location for pickup and delivery. Two of the traffic patterns that we did review, one thing to note, traffic patterns are going to stay the same as they exist now. Bus drop-off and pickup along the front, and parent drop-off and pickup between the addition and the concession building. So this upper image here is a snapshot of what parent drop-off will look like in the creation of the sidewalk here. We're kind of insetting the sidewalk in creating a pull-off area to allow 5 cars to be able to safely pull off, drop off, pick up, while still allowing traffic, additional cars to pass through. So we're trying to alleviate some of the congestion back there by doing that. And then the bottom image was just to highlight how we're going to handle deliveries. Deliveries will be a coordinated effort with pickup and drop-off times as well as dated times during school hours.
And just to elaborate on that a little bit, when we're talking about deliveries, we're really talking about kitchen deliveries. The mail and if there's like supplies, they're still gonna come to the front like they would today, but because we are relocating the kitchen back here and there's periodic deliveries for that, this zone is really about food service delivery.
So this is an enlarged image of the conceptual layout that we reviewed with the borough on the Lee Street upgrades. Again, we all know this is kind of a nebulous area right now. With this layout, we are defining parking, we're defining a drive aisle, and we're defining pedestrian access, to and from the site. So as you can see here, we've created a defined parking area. We're showing 19 parking spaces that would support visitors to the building, but also borough property up on the top of the screen. We have a dedicated 40-foot right-of-way that exits out onto Washington, in addition to a dedicated sidewalk that is better pedestrian access from those traveling on Washington. We also are showing a new sidewalk here that connects, parking with potentially access down along the existing Baker Street here to the front entrance of the building. This layout also creates a better pedestrian zone for evening events and events at the stadium. By clearly defining a pedestrian area and a vehicular area, we have better drop-off and safer drop-off opportunities by doing so. And by creating a barrier with removable bollards and a pavement either type or color change, it'll help us clearly define what areas pedestrian only and vehicular only.
So during drop-off and delivery times, what looks like kind of a sidewalk, that pedestrian plaza, will be drivable. Cars will be able to drive out that area, and then during like your football season, when you're hosting events here, basically that space transitions to a pedestrian zone. You put in the bollards or the barriers there to prevent cars from entering. You've got fencing. We're able to move the gate of the stadium into the stadium a little bit further, so that you've got a real area for pedestrians to kind of queue, do ticketing, and they're not just kind of standing out in the no man's land of Lee Street. So, I think our goal is to try to funnel the pedestrians in through designated areas, make clarity between the parking spaces and the drive aisles, and give you a little bit more presence for kind of having stadium events enter in that location. And one thing to mention here in this, all of that property that's shown in that kind of grayscale is municipal property. Obviously, the district has a partnership with the municipality and how that space is used, and so there would need to be further conversations with the municipality on how something like this can be accomplished. But the general idea, I think, is what we're kind of proposing. We would show this to planning and council as a proposed improvement that could be, possibly some cooperative effort between the district and the borough.
I'm really glad you brought it up. At one point a couple of years ago, there was a sliver of it that was owned by a private party. So I don't know if that has recently changed hands, or the upper portion of that image is a separate block. As of 5 years ago, it was owned by a private party. So I don't know if that has changed.
Through conversations with our, your civil engineer and the municipality, we're under the we're under the information that this is all municipal property.
I'm gonna just double check if that, because 5 years ago it was not. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't have, any
The Allegheny
information.
County website, just, if you look at the different. ones.
Yes, well, HRG did a survey, they checked the properties, and then also reviewed it with the borough. So I'll ask them to check again, but that's our understanding.
It's great, I love it, I think it can make a huge improvement for the whole community. And we love the borough's collaboration.
Can I just ask that, was that brought to the borough yet, or no? Because that wasn't talked about in the meeting last week, so this is new information.
This is not public comment. This is a presentation.
Sorry.
Any other questions on the site plan here? The next item that we were gonna touch on was the neighborhood town hall meeting that we had last week. For those of you that didn't attend, it was a well-attended evening event. There were a lot of comments that really offered some really great insight into how the site does work or could work, that really, kind of gave us pause and gave us, things to really go back to the drawing board and work with not only the district, but the municipality on, and that's specifically item 1 about the temporary traffic patterns during construction. This is an image that we had included in the presentation that night. And Ms. Arrow had talked through this image that, this is a temporary scenario during the course of construction. And the entire yellow area would be blocked off, day 1 for construction activities. And at the time we were proposing, temporary drop off and pickup for parent traffic, to come down Charles Street, cycle through the existing hard surface area here and then back out. And through, our conversations with, attendees, that might not be the best route to handle temporary traffic. So we are going to go back and talk to, we have an administrative team meeting on Thursday and really talk through, other options that we can consider for handling, parent drop-off and pickup during construction.
One thing to kind of add to that is that I think one of the main concerns with that area is just the fact that it's two-way traffic on a very narrow road. And the district does have parking there that's against that building. That was one of the ideas that we kind of tossed around amongst ourselves is, could we, if we get that parking lot in the back established early, we may be able to vacate the cars there and take full advantage of the width of that drive aisle. So in addition to potential other routing options, just trying to think outside of the box as to how we can, what options are available physically to help with this. There are procedural things, administrative things that obviously the district and your school principal and folks you're gonna have to kind of come up with some procedural pieces that accompany whatever physical plan that we come up with, but we are exploring options for consideration. One of the other pieces of this is the idea of potentially using the Lee Street area as some of the contractor, like put the job trailer, and that was something that we had floated past the municipal staff as something that to present to the planning and council as a request. So that's something that we would be pursuing is hopefully the opportunity to use that for construction access and our job trailer.
Can I ask you then, I know we have a lot of students that walk, we have a lot of bus. Do we have any idea on an average daily basis how many cars are dropping kids off? How much traffic that's going to be? I know it's all going to happen at one time. That's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we have that information. I know our civil engineer was out there at different times looking at the traffic, and the district may have that, but I don't know that we have that to answer tonight.
Okay.
And one of the other notable topics that did come up at the town hall meeting is obviously security concerns. With the addition of more building space, how are we going to handle security with door hardware, glazing types? How are we going to create the safest structure that we can? And all of which are very good topics and important topics, and we actually are going to be having further discussion on that this Thursday at our administrative team meeting. So, very good conversation. Oh, thank you. Since we met last in October, we have made some progress on design, obviously. We have shown you images of the exterior. We're going to touch on some of the images of the interior tonight. The first of which is the addition here in this red box here. That is the new addition out the back of the building. Area 1, just for a refresh on the floor plan. Bullet 2 is the entrance, the student entrance into the rear of the building on a typical day for parent drop-off. Students will come in these doors here for events and evening hours, or gym events. That door will also be used for accessing those spaces. Bullet 1 here is the multi-purpose space. This is our large group instruction space and cafeteria space. And then item 3 here are student and event restrooms in the tan color.
And just for the, I think more the public's benefit, that tan area at the top is a lobby space that will have an elevator and stairs to take you down to that kind of mid-level gym that is existing. So rather than coming in through the front door and kind of migrating through the whole building, the idea is to have a more dedicated public entrance there with public support like restrooms that not only serve the gym but also the assembly space, and can be used actually in the evening or for like stadium events as overflow restrooms or warming spaces or event.
Stadium events,
Yeah.
Booster events. And then the bottom right here, area B, is the auditorium infill. The red area is the media center library. Item 5 is the stream classroom, and item 6 is the music classroom. It gets infilled on the existing stage. The upper left image is the first thing that a student would see as they enter the building. These doors are the entry doors right behind us.
The student entry from the back.
Yes, yes. The concept is to use, colors, the yellow and the green colors, the Carlington colors in a softer, more elementary way. The floor patterns and tile patterns we're using to, kind of make a nod to existing patterns and textures that exist in the building. Again, with something, as I said, with the exterior, we're not trying to create, something that's dissimilar to the building. We want this addition to fit into the existing character of the building. So colors, textures, are all complementary to the existing. The bottom right is if you come right into the doors and look to the right, that's the elevator down to the gymnasium and access to the group or student restrooms. When you walk further down the hallway into this space, this is looking at the large group instruction space, multi-purpose space. These two images are obviously set up in the cafeteria format. Here on the left-hand side is the performance area, and on the right-hand side here you're seeing in the closed position these auditorium seating banks here. That system hosts against the wall and can pull in and out to create flexibility in that space on a daily basis.
Just a couple tidbits of information. You can kind of see we're using the floor patterns to kind of denote the performance zone. It's not an elevated stage like you're used to at the elementary school. It's much more accessible. It's not limited by the square footage of where the edge of the stage is. It kind of is fluid, but there's a definition on the floor for where that performance zone is. And then also using that gray flooring to kind of denote the walking path through the space. Because as you're going through here, this is kind of the path that connects you from the existing building to where the food service, where the kitchen servery is. Another little tidbit is that the yellow kind of baffles that you're seeing on the left of the left-hand picture, there are some lighting for lighting the performers. It won't be fully performance-grade lighting, but it'll help illuminate the kids. There'll be some curtains that kind of hide, curtain tracks that hide in there at the back to close off the windows if it needs to be dark. So we're using those yellow things to kind of give a little bit of visual interest around where the performance is happening, but also using it to hide some of the physical components that you would have in assembly space. Yeah, you can see it in that bottom right that they're kind of hidden behind those baffles. And the seating is approximately 300 seats. And so that was, discussions we had with the administration about having, if there were like assemblies or like a group learning activity, that it would be probably broken up into like a primary group or a more intermediate group of the students, and it's not intended to hold all the student population in those seats. Now, obviously, in front of the seats, there's still quite a bit of floor space, so seat chairs or kids could sit on the floor, however that is, but the seating itself is about 300. And it's sized for adults. That's a question that's come up before. Are these little kid seats? No, these are intended so that if parents are coming for a performance that, there's a degree of comfort. They're not going to be the most plush. They're not going to be the recliners like at the movie theater, but they are a decent auditorium type seat.
And then these last three images are some images of the media center. Again, trying to utilize and be consistent with the materials and the color palette that we're using. As you can see though, because we're creating space inside the auditorium, we have to bring some light in. So we are punching some new openings in and around that volume. So it's going to really bring some great natural light into that space. Some of the tidbits here, you're seeing in the bottom left-hand corner is a circulation desk for the librarian to monitor students coming and going. In this far corner here is intended to be a story time area where we can bring the level of the kids down to the floor, a little bit more intimate than the rest of the space. And then right across from the entry door here is enough seating for a full-size class within the media center. Also, you can see here, this is the opening into the stream classroom. So we do have the ability to open a wall and use those two spaces at the same time, or have the ability to close that off and use them as independent spaces.
One of the other things that you can kind of see in this left-hand picture is the new stair that would connect the library to the second floor classrooms that are being infilled above. And one thing to point out here is the intent is for all of this shelving to be mobile. One of the things that we want to make sure in a media center is that this is really flexible. The room can be configured in a variety of ways. If the books all need to be pushed out of the way they can be, they can also be realigned to create like pods within the room, and give some definition, but really trying to maximize flexibility as much as possible.
Restrooms. Last time we were here, we talked about designing all user restrooms, which we typically do in our buildings. But we have recently had some challenges with the Allegheny Health Department. They're the governing body for all things plumbing within the county. And they have, in a couple of construction projects that we're working on, have decided that the all-user restrooms does not meet their criteria and are requiring, gender-specific boys and girls, male-female restrooms. So in an effort to kind of get ahead of that process, we have met with the administrative team to design gendered restrooms.
One thing to point out that it's really, when we have been able to do the kind of all-user group bathrooms, it's when it's in excess of the defined gender bathrooms. So because this building is small and it has a number of existing ones, we're adding new ones at the addition, but we don't have a huge surplus. So part of the conversation was around whether we provided kind of a boys and girls pairing at most of the facilities, and then potentially had one of the bathrooms that was non-gender. And it seemed like that would probably make confusion to have some that are one way and some that are the other. So we are taking the approach that all of the restrooms would be divided into a boys and girls side. Now, with that said, the qualities of what we liked in the all-user bathrooms, with the ability to supervise sink and common areas, the privacy of the individual stalls for toilets or urinals, those things we're still able to accommodate. So that's what Jackie's going to kind of show you here.
So I have side-by-side plans of the all-user design and the gender design, left and right. So as Cassie mentioned,
Let's go back to this one first, just to orient.
Okay, yeah. So the first, we're going to look at the first floor, the main floor first. We have student event restrooms inside the new addition that serve not only the use of the multi-purpose room, but again, gymnasium and potential use for stadium overflow. And then this restroom at the bottom here is within the educational core of the building, and those are at the bottom of the page. And then the next slide we'll see are the lower level and the second floor. They're essentially identical, and we'll talk about those together. So side by side, all user design and gender design on the right-hand side. As Cassie mentioned, one of the key components to the all-gender design that we are not losing with a gendered design is the privacy. So these were individual compartments in the all-user restrooms made out of wall construction. By going to a gender design, we're still able to maintain full compartments. We're just going to use toilet partition material, full height, zero sight lines, to give us that privacy. On the bottom here is the restroom inside the educational core. You can see that we've gone from 5 to 6 individual units to 6 dedicated boys and girls in that core.
And we're still proposing that the wall that the sinks are on would be a low wall, so that that common sink area, while it's divided into boys and girls, it still have the ability to be supervised. Now we will have to still go back through the plumbing inspectors, that they do a design review, and then they also do a field inspection. And so for some reason, the inspectors have a little bit of autonomy in making different decisions. So our goal is to make those low walls that will allow for visibility into the toilet areas. I touched something. So. Hold on a second. Here.
Oh, okay. And this is the lower level and the second floor restroom reconfiguration. Essentially, they end up being very, very similar. The difference between the lower level and second floor and the first floor is we have the ability to add individual toilet rooms in addition to gendered boys and girls restrooms in this configuration. But
So
again,
one of those toilets might be a staff toilet, and one of those private toilets could be a student toilet if they needed full privacy. That would be available. But in both of those plans, in the top right and the bottom right, the corridor is to the south of the bathroom, and so those walls would
these
be
walls
low walls that kind of still give visibility into the sink area.
to kind of define that space from the rest of the corridor.
Okay, hands up.
Any questions before we turn it over to Ms. Sarah?
The restrooms for the staff is, I assume it'll be sufficient for the population of the staff, right?
Yes.
So how many toilets?
I don't remember the actual count, but we have to, when we go for code approval, we will have to make sure that we meet code for not only students but staff. In this layout of the building, we have individual rooms for male, female staff. We don't have group restrooms like we do for the students, for the staff. We're adding, but also reconfiguring some existing restrooms to make some restrooms fully handicap accessible where it doesn't exist today.
But for our kids who have handicap, wheelchair,
Yeah.
all of these are wheelchair accessible, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
If you look on the plan, for instance, in the top right corner, there are two compartments that are oversized. Those would be the accessible compartments, and then the other ones are not accessible compartments.
So we're providing that handicap stall in the gendered portion of the restroom, but also any individual restroom that we're creating is fully accessible as well.
Which you don't technically have accessible bathrooms now. I mean, that was part of the rationale for including that in the scope, is that a lot of them are undersized, they don't have the appropriate grab bars, and they really can't be made accessible in their current configuration. So that was one of the main genesis for including bathrooms in the project.
You mentioned the gender design is a function of the code, the Allegheny County Code requires the gender design.
Yes, they have a calculation for the number of men's facilities and women's facilities based on the type of building it is. So we're obviously a school, so there's a certain calculation for girls and boys. Once you've met their minimum threshold, you can add whatever you want in terms of bathrooms that don't have to be designated as men's and women's. But because we're so close to the line, it didn't make sense to have just a handful of them that were different. All right. Any other questions before Dan? This is for the questions.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Kiefer. I'm the Chief Estimator from Sarah Senior Services. This is the first night I'm meeting most of you, so thanks again for this opportunity. Sarah is very excited to be part of this project and this opportunity at Kearney Community. First, before we get into diving into understanding the document that I have up there, I wanted to just briefly touch on this process. So Sarah received drawings from DRAW in December. Since December, we've been doing our estimating takeoff evaluation, the drawings and all of that. We did pull together a preliminary estimate about a week and a half ago or so, which we first shared with DRAW, we shared with their consultants. We got their comments back from both the architectural, from Jackie and her team, as well as from the engineering companies that were involved, modified the estimate accordingly, and then presented it to the administration tonight. So if I'm just going to step out here for a second, we look at this document in columns. This is how we break up the building into components that are best consumed by the designers. There's really no good reason for me to tell them that there's $3 million worth of concrete in the job and they don't know if that's a foundation or a sidewalk or a gutter. So we do break it into building components. We then further break it out into new and reno, so that again, the engineers and architects can understand either the cost per square foot or the overall cost per the items that are in the new part of the building and the old part of the building, the existing part of the building, and then we sum those over here. So these sum the total left to right. We always bring the site work outside of the building because we want to understand the building as if it was built in a greenfield site. Site can be very expensive, especially in western Pennsylvania with the bad soil conditions that are here. So we always pull that out of beyond the loan, the bottom line. General requirements are the dollars that each prime contractor will spend in order to run the job. So we will have probably 6 prime contractors on this job. We'll have an asbestos contractor, we'll have general trades, plumbing and fire protection, HVAC, electrical, and food service. Those aren't cast in stone, that's where we're kind of thinking today. Each one of those primes, if you think of them as silos, operate independently but also as part of a team, and each one of those primes will have management, dumpsters, scheduling, tools, small tools, all that kind of stuff. So these general requirements are the dollars that the primes will spend in order to facilitate the work that's being done here. Bond is your insurance policy. If contractor Joe's Electric goes down, their bonding company will come in and make you whole so that the project can move forward without any financial hardship for you. And then overhead and profit is what they want to put in the bank at the end of the day. This is largely driven, this percentage is largely driven by what I'm noticing our own contracting company is Corp, which is a union contractor, but we're charging for overhead and profit on the jobs that we bid every week. This contingency down here becomes a very, I hate to say, we call it misunderstood. There are 2 kinds of contingencies. This $744,000 is a bucket of money that we're saving during the design phase for things like comments coming back from the municipality, or things that the design team has yet to uncover, or things that we'll find along the journey of the design. We're about, what would you say, 60, 70% through design? Somewhere
Well,
there.
we're in construction documents.
Right.
So.
So we're really going along. So this number is to cover anything that we don't either know about today or that comes along during the design. We do not carry any escalation at this point because bidding is happening pretty quickly. And we'll go into construction pretty quickly. We always price our job to the midpoint of construction. So this does take into consideration on bid day, a drywall contractor will give a general trades prime their numbers because they're not buying or placing the material probably for another year. So that does take that timeline into effect. The bottom line here at 17.2 is for construction only. If we add the soft cost, which is currently right now just the percentage, we carry that forward. That would take the project to about $21 million. The document that I handed out to everybody includes our summary statement as well as our notes that are still lingering from COVID. There's still a handful of products that have long lead items and other concerns. And then just general notes on what we assume as being in the project and what is not in the project. I do have a meeting scheduled with business manager to review the actual soft costs, so that 20% assumption will become a very hard number the next time we meet. And I did want to say that, as I said, this is a process. We will have yet another chance to estimate this project. So again, anything that comes up, either along the design journey or from municipality comments or whatever, we'll be able to clean up so that our final estimate will match verbatim to the documents that go out on the street. And on bid day, we will have a cost that we think each prime contractor's contract is value. So on bid day, who's ever there, we will take our $17.2 million number and say, well, the general trades is this portion, plumbing and fire protection is this number, so that we can actually compare it to the bids that we get and understand how close or not we are to what bids. The other thing is that we do not estimate to the lowest bidder. We bid to what we feel is fair market value. It's almost impossible for me to anticipate how aggressive a local bidder may or may not be. In my 20 plus years at Macero, we're averaging about 7% above the low bidders. So we would anticipate the number to come in about that after we get through our construction document estimate. We also will be working with DRAW on a list of alternates who will go into the job that will give the district the ability to increase the project value or decrease it, depending upon how the numbers come in. And last but not least, we are currently working, I have, I believe it's 6 separate Macero people working on a constructability review of the drawings. Constructability review is basically as if you were reading one of your children's term papers. We go through it. We have subject matter experts that will go through and look at the mechanicals, the site work, the exterior envelope, the structural systems, all of that. We just review it for completeness and just any kind of notes that we can provide and try to make the drawings as clean as possible so that everybody on bid day is looking at the same bid. That concludes what I have to say. Thank you very much again for this opportunity, and if you have any questions. Yes, sir.
Dan, I have a question. So post renovation, Carnegie Elementary School will be 100% asbestos free.
I think that's still being decided. This estimate includes it being 100% estimate free, but I'm not sure if that's the final decision.
Okay. So there still could be some asbestos. Good.
Right now, we're carrying a pretty large number for asbestos abatement. That is based on a report that was done a little bit ago, and it's for the entire building. We are not touching the entire building, so there might be reasons to not disturb anything if we're not in that.
Thanks.
Yeah, if, for instance, there might be places where there's asbestos flooring that's underneath newer flooring. We're not planning on replacing that flooring, so we're not required to abate it. And if we did abate it, we would then have to add more new flooring to the project. Similar with ceilings. If we have to take a ceiling down to reach something or tear a wall out to reach something, that would add general cost to the project to reach that asbestos. So right now, we're gonna try to just err on abating the areas that we're actually renovating in the project to prevent having a whole bunch of more costs associated with other areas.
Thanks for the explanation.
So the net number is the very top green number of $350,000, plus the markups. There are these percentages here, is another 16%, so that number goes to about for employee.
Dish.
Yes, sir.
Dan, is the kitchen equipment, is that considered a hard cost or soft cost?
That is definitely a hard cost in a full-service kitchen, currently valued at $550,000, plus the 16% is included in this project. Again, really appreciate this opportunity. Great to work with your school district, and I'm available if anybody has any questions. Dr. Kreider has my contact info. So thank you very much.
I think we just have the one more slide here regarding next steps for the process. Just reminding again about the planning commission and the council meetings that are upcoming. We would be looking for the school board to approve us putting it out to bid. Our current schedule is to put this out on the street for bidding at the end of February. So it makes sense for that, for your approval to put it out on the street to happen at your February board meeting. So that would be the request. And then during bidding, there will be a pre-bid meeting, which Ms. Sarah will coordinate a date that works with the district. It's not something that you guys are required to attend, but if you choose to attend, I'm sure that information will be made available to you. The goal right now is to bid with a date of March 20th, and then award in April. So that gives us time between receiving bids and the scheduled approval to review the bids, potentially review what alternates you may or may not select, and get the project awarded in the spring so that construction can start as soon as school's out.
The second paragraph, you say February Borough Council meeting for final approval. But I think earlier in the presentation, you said February 10th
For council, yes.
for council.
Yes, assuming that planning commission recommends it to go to council. The first council meeting is
For
February.
council to approve it February 10th.
So maybe I misunderstood. The bids are, we get them out in March, is that correct?
End of February,
End of February, and then they come in
at the end of March,
end of March, and then
award in April.
award it.
Yeah, I think the only specific date that wasn't listed there was the second bullet point, February 10th is the actual date of the council meeting. And we won't know for sure that we're on the agenda until after the planning meeting. If they give recommendation, then that would move us to council's agenda. If they don't give recommendation, then we wouldn't be on the February agenda.
Mom, don't shut the door.
Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned that one of the things that Ms. Sarah was working on to draw is a list that could increase or decrease the project's budget. I think we're good on increasing the project's budget. I don't want to speak for everyone, but at what stage in time will that be presented?
The next estimate, probably in February, and at which time that contingency dollar value of 744 would become zero.
So at the point at which we're going to be asked to release a bid, we'll have the information in hand of what the final estimate is.
And we should also have the list of alternates. It's very hard for us to price alternates because people play games with that, it's kind of crazy. But we'll definitely have, this is what we anticipate the cost of building.
We just wanted to circle back on the estimate that Dan presented tonight was based on our drawings from the fall. And then our verbal conversations and updates since the fall. So he had a more schematic set of drawings, but we tried to give him places where maybe those drawings didn't show some of the work that we now show on the drawings. So we need to give him an updated set of drawings now or in the next week to be able to do his next version. And I think that primarily he's going to be looking for any deltas in the drawings today versus what was in the drawings in the fall.
With the gendered bathrooms, how much additional cost is that?
I don't think that it's a cost issue. The number of fixtures are still roughly in the same quantity, and the toilet stall construction is less expensive than what we were originally proposing with like the full wall construction. So, there might be a little bit of more walls for one thing, but less walls for something else. So I don't really think it's a huge cost delta between the two.
Thanks for the explanation.
Last question for me. Any anecdotal offerings or of comfort or excitement about the marketplace? Bids are going to be super low, going to get a great price, or market's tight, bids are going to be really high, you're screwed. Like, what is
Well, I can tell you this, that we've been telling clients for years that the best time to go out to bid is in this time of year.
Great.
And we are currently out to bid with a project at Norwin, and the coverage out there is absolutely unbelievable. We have 9 general trades people bidding it, and 7 or 8 mechanical people. Obviously, they're not all going to get to the work, so there is, people are trying to fill their calendars for the next calendar year. And the sooner we get out, the sooner we get those numbers back, the better. So we feel that it's pretty fertile right now. So.
Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Do you want us to stick around for any? Okay, thank you.
What if we have questions for them in public comment? If they leave, how can we ask?
Well, what you can do, you can make a public comment towards it, we'll collect it, and we'll get that information then.
Thank you.
While they're tearing down their equipment, thanks to everybody who came to the public meeting. We got to get to hear about the building project, and get to share your opinion. A lot of the feedback we got incorporated in there. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. Moving back to our agenda, I assume that's all you have today. We have committee stuff, so any updates or reports from Department of Events?
Perhaps some of you folks know we had our committee meeting. So not a whole lot of news in there. I would like to point out to the public something that we shared with us from administrative public. They received a $450,000 grant from the community, and that's going to be used for an outdoor welding lab. Welding trades are really expanding career opportunities for the students who are in that program are pretty limitless. And I think one of the numbers that was shared with this was some of the students are $30 an hour in their off-school time, just using the skills they get there. And then also, Parkway received an $85,000 competitive grant through the PDP, and they're going to use that for a vehicle and I can't read my handwriting. Control lab for the electrical program there. So, this is all stuff that is improving the education for our students and the other students in the other 11 districts that are part of the joint review. This is a heck of a lot of money that's not coming from our tax dollars. So this is great news. That's all for sure.
Thank you. Pathfinder report, Director Hunchar, any updates for us?
Jim, thank you. Wednesday, we had a Pathfinder meeting at 7, but we also had a community meeting at Carnegie Elementary at 6. I thought I could juggle the both and get out by 6:40, but it was just so interesting I stayed. So we had quorum at Pathfinder, but I was not in attendance. And Susie, I know, was not available. So I'll give you a report next month when I meet with my fellow board.
I'm sure that was an excused absence.
Thanks for your understanding.
Shazza report, Director Zelensky, I know you're remote for work, but are there any updates on Shaz that you are able to share or have anything to share?
There's nothing new that I have to report other than a reminder that the Shasta Student Conference will be held on April 12th at the Hilton Garden Inn. So unless Dr. Kreider has anything new on his end, that's all we have for now.
Awesome, thank you very much. Dr. Kreider, anything else? Nope. Thank you, Kelly. Director Vogt. Thank you. Director Vogliano, legislative PSBA.
Yeah, I do. I have a few things. So, the General Assembly landscape, the new legislative session is underway. House Speaker Joanne McClellan and President Pro Tem Ken Moore still in their respective chambers. Representative Kurt Sunny chairs the House Ed Committee, and Senator Scott Martin, who's also the Post Chair, leads Senate Education Committee. So those are just some important stakeholders to keep an eye out. And Governor Shapiro is scheduled to deliver his budget address February 4th. Education funding again will be some focus this year. And lastly, this is from PSBA that they wanted a liaison to share with everybody. It says, I'm going to read it verbatim, so sorry. It encourages students to submit their application March 14th for the 2025 Student Leader Scholarships, a series of scholarships that recognize outstanding students. They've been established to provide a one-time reward of up to $5,000 to graduating seniors from PSBA member districts with administrative and ongoing leadership and meet the criteria for one of 4 available scholarships. So the first one is a student who's pursuing a bachelor's degree in education. The second one is pursuing a bachelor's degree in public safety, criminology, forensics, and other safety major. The third one is a student up to the local school board during their high school academic career, so guys. And the fourth one is pursuing a bachelor's degree in the arts. And you can find out more information about that on psbatrust.org. That's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you. Foundation liaison report, Dr. Simpson, any updates?
Yes, we did have a meeting. I can report that we've scheduled a date for Taste of Arlington, which will be Monday, April 28th. So we do have that scheduled. We also spoke about from 2024, the money that we took in from events. So we brought in about $5,000 from Taste of Arlington last year. The golf outing brought in about $4,500, and purse bingo $15,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
People like their purses.
15,000.
That's a lot of purses.
Yeah. So with the money that we bring in, we also put money back out. So there were over $2,200 in mini grants awarded to teachers, $24,000 Maggie Scholarship, and $14,000 spent on special projects. And speaking of the Maggie Scholarship, we hope to have it out, the application out and available by the end of this week. And the deadline for submitting Maggie Scholarship application is going to be March 28th. And those are $5,000 scholarships, therefore, that will be awarded. And they're not just for the kids who are going to college. Kids who are going to trade schools, technical schools can also apply to the Maggie Scholarship. And the application is going to be a little bit different this year. It's going to just only have one essay question. So I think that, that's manageable, it's worth it for $5,000 if you can get it. But, and again, like tech schools, you might need things like safety equipment, tools, all those things apply. And they really encourage people to fill out the scholarship application. So, that's about it.
I'll give a quick shout out to the foundation for their support of the district with the whole ESL and trying to help us
really interested in hearing how that's going. And I understand that we're gonna have a report, especially on the time kettle, devices in February. Yeah. So we're looking forward to hearing that. I know they want to hear more about how that's going. I think, from what I've heard, just out about it, it seems like it's going pretty well.
Thank you. Our student representatives, Dave Bruce, who's going to go first? Okay.
So business, before the holiday break, we did a day giving activity during school, and students basically got to make bracelets and cookies and ornaments and prize money gifts. And it was really fun. It was a really good way to kick off the holiday break. But we were all separated into different classrooms, and some, we had friends in those classrooms, and so we got to hang out with our friends too. But it was a really fun activity, and we all really enjoyed it.
On that same day, there was an assembly where the Carleton Theater and Carleton Student Government affiliated the Masked Singer / the Masked Cougar, and The Price is Right. Teachers and students dressed up in masked costumes, and they were different animals and concepts, singing and having judges guess who they could be. The judges consisted of a variety of students and teachers as well. The Price is Right is, again, they played where members of the student government picked a name from a box for each grade level and called that person up on stage, and the person had to play a round or two of The Price is Right, and they had the chance to win a gift card. Even if they didn't win, they were given a Hershey's chocolate bar for their goal. And on another note, that was supposed to be one of the best assemblies that ever happened, that's what they said. So, hopefully that. Also, for the students, on a less happy note, the midterms happened. Classes came to an end for the first semester. They are now over, but they were overwhelming and exhausting and very satisfactory.
And then on January 16th, the day after Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, the BSU, which is the Black Student Union, had a meeting. And we got to talk about MLK, his impact, and celebrated him. And we also did some questions, we answered some questions in groups. So like one of them was, so was peace, or what do you think about things and what those have achieved. And then after those questions were answered, we all talked about our answers. We had another activity where we had papers and we made posters, and we went online and looked at one of his quotes that he said in the past, and we took one word from that quote and either drew it on the poster or drew pictures that represented that word. But we got to draw, and then afterwards we talked about the impact of the word and just the quote in general and the importance. But it was a fun meeting, but I also got to celebrate MLK, especially after his birthday.
Going on to new business, there's a junior college fair field trip on January the 29th. It's affiliated by the NCAC, the National Association for College Admission Counseling. Various students gather to have the opportunity to talk with different colleges that correspond with their interests. Students are extremely pumped about being able to go and try to find college right for them. Representatives from over 200 colleges will be attending, answering questions, and talking about after high school preparation. I was there last year. It was great. There was a college from the UK. There was art college. There was a lot of fun stuff that you wouldn't see.
And then also, they with BSU, they're doing a 3v3 tournament for basketball. And there hasn't been much information given, but I know they're doing it to raise money and for all the future activities and trips. And it's $10 a person to get in and play, but there will be prizes and raffles and very, very games.
Are you?
I think I will. I was actually contemplating it. I think I might.
The prom committee has been on a hustle recently. Time is ticking, and new prom fundraisers and sales, like hoagie sales and baked goods, are being sold so students can make money for prom. Even putting it towards their tickets. For example, on January 24th, prom committee members will help to sell baked goods at a stand on the sidelines of the Carlton Boys and Girls basketball games, and some even volunteered to help gather bids by making some to contribute the amount which we have. There's a prom fundraiser on February 12th at the Rainy Braze, or there was, to raise money as well.
And then also for student government, they're going to be decorating halls for Valentine's Day soon. We know that students love all the decorations and it definitely livens up the school in the hallways. So students in their study halls or after school, they're going to cut out and decorate hearts and decorations. And then there's also talk about even putting up like flowers and bunnies like during springtime as well. Because I know that there's like a break where there's not really like a holiday, it's more so like springtime. But then there's also a good idea about decorating for Ramadan as well. And there's also going to be a new Valentine's Day drink at the Career Cafe. But they haven't said if it's coffee or if it's a refresher or tea, but either way, so always fun to have that.
The Carlton Theater program just began rehearsals for the 2025 production. In addition, for those who don't know, although I'm sure a lot, if not all of you had a say in deciding this musical, Hadestown is a story that reimagines the ancient Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, blending with the myth of Hades and Persephone. The story follows Orpheus, a poor musician, and his love for Eurydice, who signs her soul to Hades in order to survive their poverty. While Persephone and Hades' marriage struggles to survive, Orpheus struggles to save Eurydice from the industrial hell that Hades has created. Everyone in the cast, me included, was very excited to dedicate their lives to this for a second. It's fully sung through, which requires the utmost focus and dedication from each member of the cast, but the story is very well done, so that makes it.
And then lastly, Best Classic Art and Writing Awards. The deadlines for December 13th, 2024 and January 8th, 2025 for the writing and art sections. But if you don't know what it is, it's a nonprofit organization in New York where regional judges students grades 7 through 12 on artwork and they can award them. It would be either an honorable mention, silver key, or gold key. But students who receive the gold key for their writing and art have their work set to the national judges and have the opportunity to get a scholarship. And it's for young artists and writers who are able to submit their work for a minimal cost. But there's also a way that it can be waived as well. But there's never a specific theme for the artwork. It's a full creativity. But every year, Congress and students submit and are able to create something and share it and see if they can get judged and get a scholarship for it. But last year I submitted a dress that I designed and I got a gold key. And this year I created another dress and I'm excited to see where it goes and how they judge it as well. But the results I think were supposed to come out January 29th. So next week, which is pretty exciting. But yeah.
You have to let us know how it goes. When's the music?
April 3rd.
Good luck. I'm looking for you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for any students? Any other questions for us?
Are we eligible for the next scholarship? Like,
That'd be a question for Chris, sorry.
the other one is
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I'm behind the scholarship. And for the,
And you definitely will be your
ESPA.
ESPA trust.
and is that 5,000 in total or 5,000 each year?
I think it's just 5,000. They don't mark.
Same for me.
Any final questions for any of the committee reports? If not, we can move forward. under section 4 miscellaneous, there are 6 items on there, and before I accepted the motion, I'd like to note that under section 4.2, under agreements, we agreed on 4 items on there, and we are going to be striking the 4th of those 4 items. We're going to remove that from the motion, so I will entertain a motion to approve under section 4 the 6 items listed with the notation that under 4.2, the 4th item is stricken. So I have a motion with my awkwardly worded thing.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Can we just clarify for the record that by name, that it's the Latera sales order, right?
Yes.
That is being stricken.
Any other questions or comments? It has been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further questions now? We'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, under section 5, we've got a bunch of stuff for section 5. I'll entertain a motion to approve all 5 items under section 5.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Now we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 6 personnel, we have 2 items. And a note, under the personnel agenda, under the district personnel, item number 1, I will read the updated content there. So we're going to potentially approve Dr. Tyler Roberto as the Crafton Elementary School Principal, K-12 STEM Program Coordinator, under the conditions of the Act 93 agreement at an annual salary of $106,000, pending the submission and approval of onboarding documents with an anticipated start date no later than February 10th, 2025. So that would be content that we would update under district personnel under 6.1. Because that specific detail, which you pointed out, was not included in the agenda, does anybody have any questions or comments on that particular item?
What was her name? I'm sorry, I didn't even catch the first one.
Dr. Tyler Roberto. Yes.
When Dr. Francis came on board, we got a little bio. Is there a bio that's going to be shared?
There will be, yes.
Any other questions?
And this person is gonna be the stream court
STEM, the principal and the STEM coordinator.
for the entire district, correct?
For K-12, correct, yes.
And asking as Terry Lee, which could be a name on either side of the gender spectrum. Tyler Roberto, male or female?
Tyler is with us tonight. She is in the back row.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
Easy answer.
Any other questions? Okay, back to the board. Any questions before we vote? Oh, thank you, Mr. Dean. So can I have a motion for that amended section 6?
So moved.
Moved and a second. Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
This is, as far as quick comments, also in the personnel agenda, we do have 4 retirees, Seffi Carroll, Doris Parson, Bill Colonis, and Tim Pasco, who recently submitted their letter of intent to retire at the end of the school year. As you know, when veteran teachers step aside, veteran teachers have strong knowledge of our students, a wealth of experience in the classroom, and great expertise in working with our children. So those 4 individuals, all 4 are here at the junior senior high school, will be missed by many, and we do have them on the schedule to invite them back to the April or May meeting just to recognize them as recent retirees. Also tonight, as you mentioned, the administration recommends Dr. Tyler Roberto for the Crafton Elementary School Principal, K-12 STEM Program Coordinator. Dr. Roberto is currently employed by the New Kensington Arborville School District in Westmoreland County in the capacity of an assistant principal at the high school level. However, the majority of her experience is at the elementary level. She's previously served in the district as elementary co-principal. She was K-8 principal for 5 years in Cleveland and briefly director of school achievement for 7 schools before returning to Pittsburgh back in 2016. She was K-8 principal at charter school in McKeesport and then K-5 at a charter school in downtown Pittsburgh before moving to educational consulting at the intermediate, where she has acquired strong skills in MTSS and also has a strong background in implementing STEM programming. So administration recommends her for approval tonight, which we'll make sure.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
It was Pascal, Columbus, Bison, and
Mrs. Carroll.
Any other questions? The motion on the table is both items, the amended 6.1 and also 6.2. Any other questions before we go? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and I'll echo Dr. Crayer's comments. Congrats to these teachers. We're going to miss them. We'll celebrate them more in a couple of months, but 4 very experienced teachers. Under section 7, we have one item. I'll entertain a motion to approve the single item under section 7, student activities. We have a motion to approve the item number 7. student activities. Moved. Second. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? We'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, policy services. I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy updates under section 8. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any questions, comments? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Old business. Any director, any old business they would like to bring out? New business. Any director of any new business? Director Zalewski, any old or new business for you?
Nope, I'm all set.
Wonderful. Open forum questions, comments.
I just have a couple. The first is in regards to the new construction project. I just have 2 where the goals, like what they said, like the March, April is pending council approval, correct? Like borough council approval, is that?
Yes.
Okay. So if they don't say approve it, that would change that timeline, is that the understanding?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on their timeline.
Okay, and then, and I apologize, because at the town hall, the bathroom plan wasn't very well talked about, like that detail wasn't in that. And so, is the only like true gonna be handicap accessible bathroom gonna be in the new addition, or are all the bathrooms being updated to accommodate with
All.
rails and? Okay, so that's including all of them?
Yes.
Okay, great, perfect, thank you. Okay, so 2 new things. First is, I just have a question, just given some of the potential things that could happen, the change with the new administration and stuff. Our district receives almost $500,000 in Title I funding. The last number I was given was $482,634 for the district for Title I funding. If somehow that budget gets cut at the federal level, then down to the state level, does the district have like a contingency plan of what would happen with those funds if they got cut? And how we would keep those staff and those services?
We do carry a fund balance, and we would hope that we would get some type of advance notice on title funding being eliminated as a part of our budget process.
Okay, perfect. So you said you carry a fund balance, thanks. Okay. Then my last thing is, if you recall, way back in May, when you guys voted on the ELL program moving to Carnegie, the autistic support programs moving to Crafton, I posed to the district, how do we help families where that now is not their neighborhood school, but still participate in events at their school their child goes to. You all said that you would look into different streams, funding streams, to provide maybe transportation, because whereas if I live in Carnegie and I live up by 7th Avenue, I could maybe ask my neighbor for a ride. But if I live in Crafton and my kids go to Carnegie, I don't have a neighbor that could take me. So March 7th is our family reading night. I'm chairing it. And so I'm wondering how or what we should do with families that may need transportation to the Carnegie Family Night event, since now they're no longer at their neighborhood school, they're now at a different school because they're English language learners. Do we have thoughts? Is that something we can talk about? I can't make it to the superintendent forum, so I'm bringing it up now. I work late that night, but you guys said you would work on it, think about it. I'm just trying to come back at it because March 7th is coming up, and I already know there are several families who don't have transportation that live in Crafton. So what is...
So it's a Crafton Carnegie.
No, it's a Carnegie Elementary PTA event. It's family reading night. I'll be sending you all an email to ask you if you want to be a guest reader. We have guest readers. It's a fun night. It's going to be jumping out of the pages of a library book, so dress as your favorite library character. Now that some Carnegie kids live in Crafton who may not have transportation because now it's not their home school, how do you suppose we bridge that gap so that they could participate in that family event?
I guess we'd want to take a look at how many potential families that would impact and see if we could develop something.
So maybe I should work with the people, like maybe get a survey out? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if we do, how many families have an interest in it?
Okay, so we will I'll work on that in the next couple of weeks, so we'll do that. All right, thank you.
Thank you for doing the reading night. Brittany. Brittany.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for doing the reading night. It's a really important night. I know Crafton's done in the past. I'm thrilled to coming and doing it. It's such a great night for the kids.
Oh, we've done it for a long time. So I'm just sharing it this year, so.
Any other open forum questions? Yes.
Yeah, with the draw presentation in last week's community meeting, there was a lot of concern around Charles Street and how skinny it is. During the presentation, they were speaking about the extra parking that they're providing. I thought, could they get rid of the parking along Charles Street? They noted it as a temporary measure during construction, but is that something that they can consider removing altogether and making more space available for traffic during drop-offs? And, now that there's going to be, I don't know for football games now where people park, but they're expecting people to park in that parking lot back there, trying to get traffic in and out during football games, that would likely be different as well.
So there's two things I think related to that. One is just code for parking as far as the number of parking spaces that we're required to have at that level. And then two, that part would be district property, which may, if we, I guess curiosity is like expand the width of the road, which could have an impact on who maintains that property if it's expanded. So it may create some complications in the area too.
The road is borough.
The road would be borough, yes, and the parking spaces would be district.
Or the parking spaces on the right would be just district. Parking spaces on the left would be borough.
Or even like that short bus that parks like partway in the street, providing some room for that bus to get more off of the road so that there's more space for traffic.
We have more flexibility on looking at where our vehicles or vehicles affiliated with us are located.
Yeah. And then I have one other question. When they were speaking about the bollards between the football field, right away area, and then Lee Street parking area, they know the bollards were going to be there during the football game, but is the intention to remove those so that after the football game, traffic can lead through that section?
Yes. Yeah, so those, the ones, there are some that will be permanent in place, and there's others that will be removable. So the traffic can flow.
So the bollards will only be there during the game, pedestrians?
Right. And the ballard, they also help just create a natural walkway and pathway and create safety.
Any other questions?
Just really quickly, one more note about the construction that didn't hit me at the town hall. Currently, our kiddos in kindergarten and first grade are dismissed from the rear of the school at doors 8, 9, and 10. In the front is pretty chaotic, so it's a nice transition for those little ones. And I don't know if that is just hit the list.
They're gonna we'll put a crew of people on that to take a look at arrival dismissals, especially during construction and then post-construction.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that's on the radar. And then in the interest of time, but sort of in the consideration of time, 2 really quick notes. I would just really implore you all again to consider some sort of remote participation to these meetings. We're all working families with lots of challenges, and this might be a little more seamless if my little guys aren't running around.
What are you trying to say?
That in solidarity. And it's difficult just from the meeting minutes and waiting a month to watch the video. There's just so much information that you miss. And then I had added this mistakenly as part of the comment at the beginning. But just really encouraging you all as much as possible as you think about the decisions for 2-hour delays and the flexibility to switch to FID days, making those decisions as early as possible. There's a lot of discontent in the community about how late that decision came today. And there's a lot of folks that don't have the flexibility to pivot that quickly. I know that there was also a lot of confusion about whether, so Parkway was open, but it's district transportation, and so there was confusion as to whether those buses would come to pick up those kids. So I think just a lot of details that hit us, at a different strength, importance than may get lost at times.
Yeah, live streaming, one thing you see as far as the setup of the room right now, it's not really conducive, and the equipment that we have isn't necessarily set up for quality. When we do it, we want to make sure we do it well. Audio, visual, just the presentation boards and those kind of things are not set up for strong communication from that way. So we are taking a look into the equipment to redesign this room so we'll have the capability of doing that. So we do plan to put something together in that regard. In regard to Parkway, they push out their own as far as the closure. So we're closed, basically Parkway is closed as well. But we'll reiterate that because we do put specific communication out to Parkway students as far as what their schedule is and if any types of scenarios Parkway is closed, Parkway is open. No school tomorrow, we couldn't make that call earlier.
A comment from a parent, I feel that pain. I think one of the things we try to balance is we don't want to make a call too early and then have the conditions change and have it look like, oh, well, we didn't really need to be off because today might have been a little bit different because most predictions were going to be bad. So I think that's what the balance is. I assume that's one of the big considerations.
Wind was the consideration today. The wind originally wasn't supposed to be as high. There were some schools that stayed open and we were able to get kids in. The wind chill had got close to that -10, -12 mark, and that's very close to the half-hour time outside without frostbite kind of stuff. So that's where, being a walking district, it's a little bit more challenging on us. We have a large population of our students who walk as opposed to some of the other schools that primarily bus their students.
And I think there's that consideration, but then also the number of kids that stay home without any adult supervision today, or maybe you didn't have meals planned. So there's sort of harm on all fronts. But I know you're very thoughtful about all of it, but just wanted to bring it to the table.
It's one of my favorite parts of the job.
You're dancing. I do have a question about the FID days. So, I'll be honest with you, I hate them. James is in 3rd grade, and that's when they get technology. So the last 2 years, he was getting packets, right? I had no idea how to access any of his stuff on his computer. He did, but he was not willing to do it by himself. And so I really struggled with that, and so I don't know if it would be helpful at parent night or whatever the orientation is that we go to, that would be a presentation for parents, like how to access FID material. Because the time his teachers weren't available, I didn't know how to access them. Do I email them, and then do I sit by my computer while I'm trying to also work to get feedback from them? Do I go? Are they in Google Classroom where I can pop up and be like, "Hey, James is really struggling with this," and his Chromebook is super slow, so I don't know if it's just how it is, but it was a little frustrating too. So like that would be maybe something at the start of the school year, like, hey, third grade parents, here's how you access FID material, because I had no idea how to do it at all.
To that point, perhaps on the website in the parent section, you guys could add a micro training section.
Tutorial.
So that, yeah, just little, short, to the point, focused on specific things.
Because I don't know the last time you did third grade math.
We talked about it last week, and most parents can't help it.
Third grade guys.
Any other open forum questions? Board members, any open forum questions?
Sorry about the call, but earlier I talked about the Master Cooper, and he actually happened to be in there. Sending Billy Joel song.
Oh!
I just thought I'd-
It's been deleted.
Did anybody guess?
It's not subject to right to know request.
No, I think they guessed Mrs. Carson.
Any other open forum questions for me?
So, I've seen some things shared around screenshots of Facebook regarding outside religious education that our students participate in or are able to participate in. And there's some misunderstandings, I think, involved with that whole situation. And I think it'd be helpful if our students are.
Yeah, I can clarify.
Thank
For you. So the district is bound by the Constitution of the Government of Maine, and there's the First Amendment that we all know talks about free speech, but there's also a clause in there that says that government and school district can't recognize the establishment of religion. And obviously the school district follows the Constitution, we're bound by it. There's a separate provision of this Pennsylvania school code adopted by the Pennsylvania legislature. And I'll just read part of it to you that says, the superintendent of the school district shall, so it's mandatory, upon written request of a parent or other person in loco parentis, excuse any student who is the child of that parent or person in loco parentis from school attendance for a total of not more than 36 hours per school year in order to attend classes for religious instruction. So if you're seeing something about students attending some sort of religious, that's not the school sanctioning that event or anything like that, because otherwise we'd be in violation of the Constitution or the First Amendment. That is something that will be bound by a mandatory provision of the school code and we follow and make sure that the requirements of the statute are met, that it is done by the parent's request. All this district says is excuse the student, and the parents are then required to somehow transport and get them back to school if it's not at the end of the day, except for that if it's, I guess there are 36 hours in the statute where I think, what are there, 36 weeks?
Right.
School years. So that's what I've seen in the past where it's 1 hour a week, where I've seen it. So just so there's no confusion about the school district sanctioning or acknowledging or recognizing any type of religious activity. We are not.
But in that letter,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And so the other thing is, as far as the law, but also our policy, there's no advertising flyers in the school property involving any of this.
Right, you don't want to do, right.
We
You
don't
can't
do
do,
anything.
you can't do that because then it's
So that's not even happening.
promoting, correct.
Sorry.
No, I just, the flyer, so I think in the camp somebody wrote on Facebook, is the district providing lunch though to those students? Because it said the district is providing a bagged lunch, so is that?
District still feeds the kids.
It would be required.
Okay, I was just curious, like, okay,
We
so.
feed all the kids.
Right, yeah, so I just didn't know, like, if that was.
And I think there's only a small handful of students participating currently.
So they're leaving at lunch, is what you're saying. Is that what-
That's my understanding, it's just for third graders,
We're
and
required
they're
to leave
leaving,
at lunch.
at lunch. I mean, my kids aren't, but I'm just saying that's what.
Any other board questions? Any other board? I want to quickly bring up the budget for the project. So, a year ago, we kind of set a rough target for what we thought we could spend. we had Draw come back to us and kind of share all the things they thought we could do. And ballpark, that was like 20, 25 million bucks or whatever it was. We said, hey, we don't think we can afford all of that, but we think we can afford 50 ballpark number together. We're currently at 20-ish. So I think we either have an opportunity to say, do we want to do all the things that we're currently outlining? And do we want to try to raise some more funds externally by talking to corporations or whatever organizations or philanthropy groups, whatever? Or do we have to look at cutting that in design? Or do we engage the community and say, hey, do you want us to spend X amount of your tax dollars or our collective tax dollars on doing design X, or a slightly bigger number that it's going to be slightly higher tax rate, but also provide more facilities and more resources for the students. So I think that's our goal for the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. The team's going to back us with something that are big, but I think that's part of it. I just want to have a good conversation, see when he agrees, disagrees, has a different perspective, and a better idea of how we approach it.
So as I recall, the original presentation was much higher, it was encompassed what all three of our buildings. We decided to do some projects at the two buildings, but this is the construction project that came out of that presentation, because this is something that is pretty dire need. And so, as far as what it ends up costing, I think we're all pretty conscious about budget. We're all pretty conscious about being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. But we have to weigh that with what the needs are and what our anticipated needs are. Because it could end up costing more later if we have to. Yeah. So, I haven't approved it yet. I'm still keeping my eyes open. These folks are really was glad to have Sarah to go on the estimating process and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely keeping an eye on costs. And I think everybody's looking at this as being an extravagant product. Something that's going to improve the building and future proof. That's my. I agree with you.
We'll be looking to you in the coming weeks to help give us some guidance about what your appetite for pain looks like and where these numbers fall in that.
Right, and it's our plans to bring in PNC and possibly someone else to talk about the bond options and kind of give us an idea of where are we looking at with different ranges of costs. So I think right now we're going to sit down and talk to them probably the next 2 weeks, and then hopefully we'll have one with the finance committee in February. So then we can really start get that option up, because there are so many different options of getting the bond now, half the bond, wait and see the price for them, do another bond. There's so many different options that we don't even know. So we'll let the professionals tell us. So that's the plan right now, is that we're huge bond cost.
Any other significant thoughts or dissension?
One more thing. Is there anybody here from Mickens family?
Me.
Who? Oh, you're the Mickens family.
Yeah, that's, I go by my maiden name though.
I see. Well, that's a really nice gift for us. That was nice. Thank you very much.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to.
I everybody had a chance to talk about
Terry.
buildings.
Oh, sorry.
What's up?
You showed up. I know you're good at giving.
No, you know what, it was so long ago, I don't really remember what the issue was, so it's fine, it wasn't burning, or it would still be in my, it would still.
If you think about it after we adjourn, we'll.
Yeah.
And Kelly, do you have any, Director Zelensky, any open floor questions?
No.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.